Look at smile.
I have a whole problem with the whole narrative around NVIDIA being a AI company. And so I know that's what everyone's talking about. But I don't think they're an AI company. They're a hardware manufacturer. They're a chip designer. Or maybe not manufacturer, but they're a chip designer. And not to take anything away from that, but that's not artificial intelligence. Are they trying to get into certain spaces of it? Sure. But they're not, to the best of my knowledge, and I've lots of close friends that work there. In my opinion, they're not an AI company. They are, that's like saying, I'm a shovel company, so I'm a gold company, right? Like, well, no, not really. You know, I mean, to be honest, with a lot of these AI companies or claiming to be AI companies, again, like, sure, are you doing projects with large language models and transformers to try and do something? Sure. Does that make you an AI company? I don't know. Like, what makes something or a company an AI company?
Who's calling NVIDIA an AI company?
Everybody.
Okay.
Everybody.
So
literally everybody.
But don't you think there's an argument to be made that NVIDIA is the enabler for this AI thing that we're going through? Like, without NVIDIA, we don't have this thing, right? So doesn't that by default make them an AI company?
No.
So, okay. So what is your issue? The valuation that they're getting, like the PE? Or what?
No. It's just what people are saying. I think people are being loose and liberal with their words. It's like, if I make motors for a car, am I a car company? Am I a motor? Do I build motors? Do I design motors? What do I do? Right? That's what I do.
It's interesting you say that, because every single legacy automaker out there, that's literally the only thing that they actually make, and they outsource everything else, and they're called car companies, but they're really just engine companies.
Well, they're a car design company, they're a car assembly company, sure. You know, and I can, you know, if there's anyone who's gonna be a smart ass in comments, they're gonna say, oh, then Tesla's just a car company. And this is where I would push back. In fact, Ed Ludlow, I kind of pushed back on him.
Shout out Ed. He follows me.
Oh.
Shout out.
Well, I pushed back on him yesterday, because he was talking about, why doesn't Waymo use Google with what they're doing with LLMs and all this to make Waymo better? And I responded to that saying, like, I appreciate the attempt, but this clearly shows knowledge gap in the industry. And he asked me to explain, you know, like, I went kind of on a tirade while I was about to get in the shower. So he interrupted my shower, because I felt like, all right, well, he's asking, so let me try to spit as much as I can out on here. But again, it's the same thing to me. Tesla isn't just a car company. They are a car company, but they're not just a car company. And the reason is because they actually have an AI product, AI competency, AI team, developers. Like, they actually have all of that, right? Whereas, I don't know, like, what is NVIDIA really doing from an AI point of view? Like, I know they're trying to do certain things. They're trying to create certain ancillary softwares that you can start to use. And I know they're trying to maybe rent out some of their GPUs and all that. But that to me is like, do you consider Microsoft an AI company? I don't. I consider them having a partnership with OpenAI.
Yeah. I see the point you're making, actually. It does. You're kind of saying that calling NVIDIA an AI company diminishes AI companies, because AI companies are the ones that are going to craft the software solutions that are powered by the hardware that will create that recurring revenue and that scaling effect of having this in millions and millions and millions of units that are going to be able to do repetitive work, or work that's going to displace or enhance a lot of the economy, versus the underpinning that's going to power that. It's two different things is basically what you're saying. And they both probably merit different valuations too, if you really think about it that way.
Go ahead, Hans, because I'm saying a lot here, and I feel like you have something smart to say to rebut what I'm saying.
Thank God.
No, I was actually going to ask questions on
great.
list for the audience. List some companies that you would classify as things that definitely are AI companies, and some things that other people might say are AI companies that you say are definitely not AI companies besides NVIDIA, so that people can kind of get an idea of how you're thinking about this.
I don't see a cloud provider as an AI company just because they host the GPUs and they rent that out, right? Microsoft, I would say, like, literally, what do they offer besides Copilot that, again, we're circumnavigating back to OpenAI? Like, what exactly are they offering? I mean, you can look at Amazon, and while everyone thinks Amazon's the laggard, and obviously I'm biased, I get all that, but Amazon's been doing what, not LLMs, right? But they've been doing AI forever, right? With everything on Amazon.com, right? Alexa, yeah, it's not the best, but yeah, that's AI, that's machine learning. Like, that's how they get to Alexa. All the things they do internally, they literally build their own chips, right? So, and they have a actual offering called Q, right? So they have their own things. Whereas someone like Microsoft is just white labeling OpenAI.
So is, by your definition, Apple an AI company?
Not right now, no.
They have Siri.
Siri is, for all I can, based on what I can tell, is not using machine learning or any type of artificial intelligence. And I only say that because they haven't been able to iterate on it.
Because it's obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could they be? I would say yes. But again, the fact that I see them going out and trying to make all these partnerships with other people instead of doing things in-house.
So weird.
Well, it's Me Too. It's a Me Too, not movement. But this is when companies die, is when they become Me Too companies. It's like, oh yeah, I'm doing that too. Here's what I'm doing. They just start trying to do partnerships everywhere. Right? Look at GM in China, right? Was it Psych or something like that? Like, this is where things die, is when companies aren't doing things themselves because whether it's the innovator's dilemma, whatever it is. Tesla is the only company that I could tell you right now that has actual AI talent and expertise internally that we know of, that actually is putting their money where their mouth is from a hardware perspective, because without the hardware, you can't actually do any AI work. And to just show you how like backwards everybody is, I literally heard Jim Cramer on CNBC yesterday saying, Elon Musk needs all of these GPUs and these chips, and so that with the data, they can train the chips. And I'm saying, like, you idiot, you're not training any chips. Like, what are you talking about? Like just the lack of knowledge is insane. And because he was talking about what Jensen was saying, and he was even saying, like, I would never bet against Jensen, but yeah, I don't know about this one, with his comments about Elon. But my point is, Tesla has the talent, they have the hardware. Why does the hardware matter? Because that's when you can actually start doing AI, ML, Gen AI, whatever you want to call it. And then Tesla's the only company that actually has something out there that they're actually selling, making real profit on, that's actually doing something that can replace a human. Tell me another actual AI thing that's not taking away tasks or replacing or helping in productivity, but actually replacing a human.
You make excellent points. I mean, I think we both of us agree with a lot of what you just said, right?
Yeah. Anyways, I got tricked when people say NVIDIA's AI company, because it's like, it's not just the NVIDIA itself. It's like all these other things. And like, I'm happy to be wrong, but I want everybody else to actually start doing real shit. Sorry, cuss, but to start doing real stuff and stop talking about it and start putting stuff out there.
I think you make a very good point around that, where there's like very few, if any, and I heard the All In guys talking about this too on their pod a few weeks ago. It's like, the only one that's really making okay, so NVIDIA, Nico, I already have a title idea for this, Hans. Nico hates NVIDIA. And then we'll put a link to his channel at the top to make sure he gets all the hate from that statement. And this video will have 1 trillion views. You're welcome. There you go.
Mine was going to be Tesla boys.
Tesla boys.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's what it's going to be. Tesla
Great.
boys.
I I hope you do it.
Like boys in the hood, but we're Tesla boys. Just as
Great.
hardcore.
So much swag, especially with that shirt. You're just doing so well right now. Okay, so all right, yeah. So the thing that's interesting about NVIDIA is like I really think that the ability to make 76% gross profit on a hardware product is insane.
It is insane.
It's that doesn't make any sense. 76% gross profit, okay? Percentage. So it's like, so that already says that the amount of demand for this thing is insane. It's completely, that gross profit percentage is a direct reflection of very limited supply and extremely high demand. And that demand is in the tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, right? So this isn't like, if businesses, when is the last time, maybe the dot-com bubble. Okay, but we'll put that to the side. But there is a lot of money that's being tossed into the AI thing that NVIDIA essentially has a quasi monopoly on the hardware, let's say, kind of, right? So, and that's why they're getting the valuation that they're getting. But I think that in itself deserves a giant amount of props. And I'm not saying you're not doing this, Nico, by the way, but like that in itself is such an incredible, like a brilliant positioning of the company for the last 5 years or however it's been to try to get it to this point and having the foresight that this is where we're going, right? But it's like on the opposite end, sort of the point that you made, which I agree with 100%, we haven't yet seen who is going to make money on those tens and hundreds of billions of dollars that they're investing to start getting an ROI on that investment, right? So NVIDIA is like hoovering up everyone's their investments, but there's the RO hasn't shown up yet. And the only company that I've identified, sounds like you've identified, Nico, and there's other companies out there that I know are working on this actively, but the only one that appears to have a legitimate business model that will have an ROI on that AI investment is Tesla, because they have invested for the last 7 years or so their entire fleet to be able to generate an ROI based on that investment by uploading a software update and creating the Optimus robot, right? But we need to see that in the P&L for that to prove out.
But I also want to be intellectually honest here, or transparent, I guess, or I don't know what the right word is, but OpenAI is making money, right? All these, there's a company called Glean out there. There's all these companies that essentially are doing the same thing.
Sorry. Are we sure OpenAI is making money? I mean, they're making revenue, but are we sure they're making money?
Okay,
like, are they profitable?
Fair. But good call out. Wrong choice of words, Nick. Be better. They're making revenue. They're charging $20 a month per user, whatever. The problem with that is that $20 a month, in my opinion, is the highest it's ever going to be, and it's just going to go down because it's all getting democratized, right? They're all training on the same data set to solve the same how many companies are in the same space right now with LLMs? So many. They're all trying to create the foundation model, and then here comes Meta saying, "Yeah, all right, we'll give it out for free." But they're doing the classic Facebook, right? Like if you're not paying for it, then you are the, you're the one that they're mining. But so eventually it's going to get to a point where why would I ever pay $20 a month when I can just go here for free?
Well, and Microsoft is even giving out, basically OpenAI for free through Bing and Copilot. Like a lot of these things are essentially free. I would definitely classify Facebook as an AI company right now because they're using a lot. I mean, basically all the social media companies are and have been for a long time just because they use machine learning in all of their recommendation engines. And, they're getting more and more sophisticated at that over time and trying to figure out how to actually bring generative AI products into all of their suite of actual customer offerings. So that's an interesting, I mean, you're distinguishing picks and shovels from actual mining or panning for gold, whatever form of trying to extract minerals that you're looking at. And I think that's a good point. There are so many interesting efforts right now, but it is hard to say which ones are going to play out. And that's definitely why we're focused on Tesla, especially between the cars, which have an inference computer in them already, and the Optimus robot platform that they're building, which will have the same inference capability on board from day one, that can become much smarter over time as they squeeze more and more artificial intelligence software into it.
Pretend all this AI stuff never happened. But let's say there's the same demand for NVIDIA because Xbox and PlayStation are just kicking ass and they're taking off, and all this demand is warranted because everyone's trying to build, the next gaming console or whatever. Does that make NVIDIA a gaming company? Or are they still a GPU chip maker designer?
I guess, again, I think the takeaway from your comment, though, it like the implication that you're saying is that you're just basically saying we're just getting started. Like it's in a way.
This is in fact, I don't even want to take credit for this because it was brought to my attention through the All In podcast, where David Sachs calls out the way any of these revolutions work is it always starts where the hardware companies make all the money, and then the companies that make more money than that are the software companies, and then the companies that make the most money are the ones who are actually doing something that creates like a recurring revenue or something that actually, provides that like next level of value. But it always starts with the hardware company, and that's where we are right now.
And we're just getting started at, the hardware one is, we have a proof of concept, meaning that there is a legitimate business case being made for the hardware because there's a company out there that's making the best chip and almost everybody's buying it, and they're making a gigantic amount of profit on it. So now the Tesla thing is interesting because it's like Tesla's doing all three too. Dojo, we're still unsure about like how much you're actually using, how realistic it is to be used long term. Like that discussion is still going on.
It's pretty definitive right now that it's not in a good place compared to NVIDIA, at least what we have today is mostly the NVIDIA cluster that was turned on. And then they're talking about getting the rest of it from Oracle, which is also going to be, NVIDIA based. It's definitely not going to be Dojo. We know that for sure. So other than spending $500 million to expand a Dojo cluster in Buffalo, New York, which is probably just to beef up their auto labeling pipeline, then we don't have a clear line of sight to Tesla using any more Dojo than that before TSMC said that they're going to update their process in 2027 to do the, integrated chip on or system on chip on wafer thing that will allow them to put high bandwidth memory directly on chips on top of a wafer. That they said would make Dojo potentially 40 times more powerful than it is today. But at the rate that the NVIDIA chips are progressing, 40 times faster than today still is probably going to be behind in 2027.
Okay, so sort of. I sort of agree with you on that. Okay, so I think the whole Oracle and Dell thing likely has nothing to do with NVIDIA. I think the Oracle and Dell, unless you know something I don't, which is possible. I think the Oracle and Dell partnership is them trying to create their own internal private cloud so that they can internally host profiles for robotaxis and building out all that infrastructure, because you would never use H100s for that crap. That's just basic server CPU, maybe. I don't know why you would use GPUs for it, but this basic infrastructure, and I think that's what's happening there. I think they're going to start building this out so they don't have to host it in any cloud provider. But Blackwell is is interesting because they couldn't actually do what they wanted to with Blackwell. It's actually too, and I haven't studied this in like a minute, so forgive me for using the wrong words. But
And maybe give the audience a little bit of knowledge into what Blackwell is as you're going through it.
That's the new chip that NVIDIA came out with after the H200. But it's essentially bringing two, let's just call it chips together, but they weren't able to make one chip. And so they have the same, it's like in CPUs, like normally you'll see like in computers, like, you know, dual Intel, whatever, where there's something called a NUMA boundary between them. And that's how it actually is able to schedule CPU cycles across both. But you normally want to schedule all jobs on one of those CPUs, so you don't have to cross that NUMA boundary. But Blackwell they couldn't figure out just yet how to design it so that you wouldn't have that, what I'm calling a NUMA boundary. It's not, but a same idea across it. So I guess all I'm saying is it does seem like it seems like, you know, they're starting to hit that kind of logarithmic.
Hit a boundary.
Yeah. And I could be wrong. Maybe they just want to get something out the market because this other thing wasn't ready. Like, I'm sure they have the next 3 generations in pipeline right now, you know? So, but I'm just saying, like, it was just interesting to see that. And it's like, interesting.
So does that imply that long-term, like maybe not long-term, maybe the next few years, everyone else is going to catch up to NVIDIA because compute is not going to get as fast as we think it is? So like Dojo will start making sense? Is that sort of your overarching point?
No, partly. My overarching point really is that there will be a point where everyone else catches up. Like, not saying that they will supersede, but they'll be close enough where people will be like, oh, well, we'll go with AMD instead because it's like, you know, more cost effective, and like, how much more performance am I getting? You know, like, do I really want to go and pay extra 50 grand for something that's like, you know, 10 more miles of range? Like, no, I don't. Right? Like, there's a cost analysis there. But I think my main point is that I think Dojo, I'm just saying, don't count Dojo out. I am really optimistic on it because Dojo is, the point of it was to be for a very specific purpose. And I think when you have a sole focus and purpose like that, it's a lot easier to be successful and to make breakthroughs. It's why I think Tesla's leading in AI right now, is because they're not trying to figure out a killer app. They're not trying to do all kinds of things. They're trying to solve self-driving cars. They have that narrow focus. And I think that's why they're able to be so successful, because they know what their true north is. Everyone else is just trying to figure it out.
I'm definitely counting Dojo out until 2027. And I think, I do think that they're still pouring some resources into this and that the project is an ongoing project. But if it was going to be a bigger thing than just auto labeling video for the training runs, I think we would have seen more from it by now. And I've got actually a video that should be dropping on Sunday, talking to somebody who's a journalist and an industry consultant who's spoken with a number of people inside the Dojo team and given his assessment. And so part of my position is that part of it is conversations that I've had not only with you, Nico, but also with several other people, just looking at where XAI is getting their compute and what it is that Tesla seems to be doing. And it just doesn't seem like Dojo is as successful as they hoped it would be right now. That doesn't mean that it's not something that they will, like, it's always a good insurance play. And this is something that James Dalman has said, like, you keep developing it because we don't know how the industry is going to evolve. We don't know how artificial intelligence is going to evolve. We don't know what Moore's law is going to get us. We don't know what different things are going to occur in software. And so you keep developing just so that you've got something in your back pocket in case you can't get what you need from, whether it's AMD or Intel or, of course, NVIDIA. It's still going to be there. And I hope that they are able to, especially, the new TSMC process that they're talking about, where they can basically stack multiple chips on top of each other and then mount those directly to a wafer and treat it like one giant chip, is an incredible piece of design possibility. Like it just unlocks so many things. And so I'm sure that whatever Tesla has in mind for that process is leaps and bounds beyond what Dojo version 1 and 1.5 is. And, who knows, they've talked about having version 2 and version 3 already in the pipeline. And so, but we don't know is what is in production now, version 2, is what's going into production a couple years from now, version 2. Like the timelines between those is a little bit unclear. So hopefully we do see some really exciting things in future AI days related to that. But yeah, I think for the time being, we're kind of stuck relying primarily on NVIDIA.
But I think what's interesting about this whole Dojo thing too is, like, if you think about 4680, which is another like thing that Tesla was working very hard towards in 2020, which, now that we're in a world where battery supply is vast compared to current demand, because you have a lot of legacy automakers coming to the realization that, or not, maybe not coming to the realization, maybe perhaps they knew this the whole time, but they, were catering to whatever. Set that aside. We have a lot more batteries out there for sale than there is demand, because a lot of legacy automakers have decided to pull back on their plants, right? And so now you have a glut of batteries that companies like Tesla and other EV makers, especially in China, Kia, Hyundai, for example, in South Korea, now have access to really cheap batteries, especially compared to the last couple of years, to the point where Tesla has openly said that 4680 is a hedge. It's more of a hedge play. We're still going to ramp it. It's going to be additive to the supply, but it's there to try and lessen the blow of not having access to batteries. But which kind of like, if you go back to the messaging they had initially, it was very much, this is what Tesla does very well, is they're very good at creating a lot of positive hype around their products, but they're also not afraid to pivot if they find that there's a better alternative, which on the negative side, people will say, here goes Elon and Tesla over-promising and under-delivering and lying about their intentions. And then when the bottom line profit starts to balloon because they made a wise business decision by leveraging the existing economic condition, then everybody who has this talk going to be like, oh, that was very prudent. So it's like you have this battle between the two that's constantly happening with the company. But so they did that with 4680. It's very likely that they'll do that with anything, right? With Dojo, with whatever else comes up, right? So there's precedence for them to say put Dojo in the back burner, or even 4680 in the back burner potentially, and leverage the existing supply chain that's out there for it.
I mean, it seems like insurance is also in that situation right now, since it hasn't expanded nearly as quickly or as rapidly. And we don't know exactly why that is. But we do know that one of the things that Elon said about insurance specifically is that by having an offering in the marketplace, it forces other insurance companies to be a lot more competitive. So even if we don't cover, 100% of Teslas, even if we cover just 5% of it, but then everyone else has to have pricing that is competitive with our pricing, then everyone who owns a Tesla, gets the benefit of cheaper insurance without us having to, bear the burden of all that. So that's another instance of the exact same dynamic.
Yeah, people on the bear side will say that's rationalizing and coping, and then people that are reasonable will say that's smart, prudent business decision making.
Can we go back to the whole what I was talking about with Ed and what we were going back and forth? I kind of got lost on a tangent there. From your guys' point of view, when you see like OpenAI or Google and Tesla, we would all agree those are all AI companies, right?
Sure.
I don't know about Google. I'm legitimate. I know that they are working on AI.
If you were to say they're a JV or varsity team or professional athlete AI company, how would you rank them?
Google, from an AI perspective, definitely feels JV, because it feels JV. Again, I have no insight into the company whatsoever. I don't invest in it. I'm not short against it. Have any positions against it, and I haven't done the diligence. But it feels JV because they've had such poor showings in the early innings of this stuff, right? Especially in comparison to OpenAI or Anthropic, right, with Claude, which is from all different benchmarks appears to be the most advanced one out there of any of those sort of like chatbot type solutions. Okay. So Google feels JV to me. OpenAI's technology is definitely great. Like I use it for my stuff for sure. I use it to come up with title ideas. I use it to summarize articles. I use it to, get ideas around scripting and stuff and concepts. And if I'm like just out in the, my brain's going to some weird place where I have nobody to talk to about stuff, I just talk to the AI and the AI gets the juices flowing, right? So like stuff like that is extremely helpful. But I could probably do that with Gemini. I could do that with Grok. I could do that with Claude. But there is use cases for OpenAI. So they feel like professional to me. But Tesla to me, I think for me, it's like a different level. I like call it top 1% of professional, like LeBron, Jordan, Ann Edwards, Wemby.
I was about to say,
yeah. Like
Edwards
these guys. Right, yeah, he's a monster. I can't wait to watch the game tonight. But to me, that feels the most disruptive right now because I can very clearly see where it's going, right? Whereas the OpenAI, Google stuff, like I can definitely see why it's useful, but the use cases still feel narrow and they feel very specialized in how they will disrupt, right? But self-driving is obvious. Self-driving is very obvious. It's at a gigantic scale. It's easily the most difficult because it's life or death. And you're in a domain where you have to negotiate around humans, right? And it seems like it's going to have the highest CapEx and R&D involved out of any of those other ones, because you don't only have CapEx in R&D on the AI side and the hardware for the AI, you also have CapEx and R&D for the vehicle side and creating the vessel for the AI, right? And they're executing against that at a really high clip. By the way, I didn't even think I should be saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I have a friend who works at Tesla. They have 12.4. That's all I'm going to say. Okay? So it's...
You do that to me?
That's all I'm going to say. So it's obvious. It's obvious where this is going. And that's why I would put them at the top. And this, I'm just trying to be objective, This is just an objective look at the situation. All three of us are investors in Tesla. Like, of course, we're going to be a biased group. But I think we're investors in Tesla because of the objective nature of the technology, not because we're trying to somehow justify the investment. I think we're invested because of the objective nature of the story.
Was Kodak a digital camera company? They invented the digital camera. Like, all of the IP was created internal to the company. And yet somehow they died as digital cameras became mainstream, where they should have been in the position to capitalize. And that's, I don't know that that's the direction that Google is headed, but I don't know how they avoid some of the traps that ensnared Kodak. Like, obviously DeepMind is an incredible AI research division, and obviously they have to continue to develop AI technology internal to the company. But Google is a search company, first and foremost. They are not first and foremost an AI company. So they're a search company playing with AI. And I don't know that Sundar Pichai has the ability. I just don't know that Sundar Pichai has the cojones or the strategic vision to be able to navigate Google from here to there, much less the stake in the company. Like, Larry and Sergey still have all the money or, voting rights and power. And so, it's just unclear to me whether or not Google can make it from here to there. The one counterpoint to that is, man, they have all the resources in the world to be able to make that transition. And if they can figure out how to get out of their own way, they have every opportunity and resource available at their disposal to do that. And so there are a lot of people that are betting, yes, they can, just because they should be able to. So I don't know. That's my take on Google. I guess that's where I would put them in. I wouldn't call them JV. I think I would call them in the Masters League. That they were great once upon a time, and now they are not firing on all cylinders. And unless they can get on testosterone replacement therapy and pull a Mike Tyson, then they are going by the wayside.
So let me amend what I said then. Then I would put OpenAI in that same exact category, I think. Because some of the decisions that Sam has been making lately, where he's partnering with these like legacy companies to try and like raise money. Like what was the latest one he did? OpenAI. Hold on, it was with the media group, right?
Oh, licensing like from New York Times or
yeah, exactly. Like what is that? That doesn't feel. It doesn't feel innovative. This is like super subjective, right? But like you will think that you have such a great game-breaking technology that could literally, you've showed it with Sora. You could just generate B-roll, right? You can just generate B-roll on the fly. Like this is like the use case I'm thinking about for a YouTube channel, right? And somebody's going to freaking steal this. So you're welcome. But I'm sure they thought about it. Just generate scripts in OpenAI and just have it generate a freaking video with that same script and just have it do. And then, so why not just perfect that? And I'm sure they're working towards it in some way. But like these in-between steps feel like they're already falling in that trap. And I don't know if it's because their growth has stalled or it's becoming obvious that their long-term capability to have an edge in performance is diminishing very quickly, especially when you have a small company like Anthropic already performing just as good, if not better, than OpenAI is in a lot of different ways. And the only reason why OpenAI has an advantage right now is because of first mover, and then also because of they have access to the live web, right? So like those are the only two real advantages. But like, okay, what's stopping Claude or like Grok? Grok feels like it could get there any minute. Grok could do that tomorrow, theoretically.
I think it's a combination of trying to make money and trying to cover their butt. Like, because there are lots of licensing, like the technology companies are not going to be the ones that decide how the money gets distributed after it gets made. That's going to be settled by governments and courts and lawsuits and all of that fun stuff. And so I think it's the beginning of them trying to engage in that process. And I don't know what the outcome is going to be one way or the other.
Just feels like a house of cards to me. Just OpenAI just feels like a house of cards.
Let me get to like why I'm asking this, right? Like the question behind the question, or the thought behind the question. Every day when I see all these companies and what they're doing, whatever they announce, whatever projects, partnerships, all this, it just seems more and more abundantly clear to me the difference, the delta between Tesla and everybody else. And when I read that Ed Ludlow comment talking about using, Google and their progress with LLMs to help Waymo, all this stuff, when I heard Jim Cramer talk about, training the NVIDIA GPUs, when I hear all this, it's just, there's such a lack of understanding of what Tesla is doing. For like, and I say this not to like reiterate things that maybe a lot of people know already, but for anybody who thinks that there's really this race, it's not a race by any means. The reason I say that is because if you look at what Tesla had to do, they first had to think ahead of time, a lot ahead of time, about how this would work. All the way back in, 2018, 2016, about putting the cameras all over the cars and shipping everything with all the equipment. This is almost a decade ahead where they thought about this.
The inference compute part is insane to me. Blows my mind.
Yeah. They then had to design specific hardware for this specific purpose. So if NVIDIA is an AI company because they make hardware, then NVIDIA is, or then Tesla is too, just by that alone. And then Tesla's been an AI company all this time because of what they've been doing with the inference part of it. But not just that, they understood deeply how this would work to the point where even Elon was able to more or less project how many miles they would need. Right. And it seems like it's actually gonna happen sooner than what he projected, but he was in the ballpark, is my point. Okay, so that's just high level stuff. Let's talk about the actual solution. All right. The actual solution. You can take ChatGPT, Claude, any of these models, you put in whatever you want for your context window, right? Meaning like the amount of words you put in. It takes a second, spits you back an answer. That answer can be right. It can be wrong. It can have holes in it. It can have inaccuracies. But at the end of the day, I'm putting some text. There's a limited context window, and it's giving me text back. All right. Not that big of a deal. I'm in front of a screen. What Tesla's doing is taking 8 cameras, at this point, just looking at the photons, creating a unified vector space, taking that input into the inference computer, and that inference computer has to, in less than a second, in real time, make a decision on not just what to do as far as brake, accelerator, steering wheel degree and all that, but life-saving decisions. Understanding the kinematics of a person standing on a sidewalk. Are they about to cross? Are they not? Like the level of degree and how big that aperture is for what they have to do, and in the speed they have to do it, and they can't be wrong.
And they can't use a single line of heuristic code to do it. That they have to rely 100% on all neural nets to do that.
Exactly. And so when I say this, and again, keep in mind, I'm trying to, for brevity reasons, because I'm already long in the tooth right now. Everything I just said to you, and then you try to compare that to put text in, I get text out. And it may be wrong. It may be right. It may take a couple seconds before it fully populates. Those are not in the same ballpark.
It's not well understood. Yeah.
It's not. And so
for sure.
I don't know. I just say this because I feel like people need to speak out more about this. Like I wish James Dalma had his own YouTube channel and he would just talk about this and the differences between all these difficulties.
But here's the thing. I think it doesn't matter how often this is said. The biggest hurdle in this
I know where you're going. I know exactly where you're going.
Go ahead.
It's all about the revenue and the bottom line, the P&L.
Kind of. It has to be proven. This is why people, and again, it's not that people are dumb or people are not smart enough to get this or they don't have the time. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's such a fundamentally gigantic problem that is so fundamentally insanely profitable if it works, that like people just need to see it. It's like, okay, this sounds incredible. This is the best thing ever. Cool. Let's see it. Let's see a car with 8 cameras that has an AI brain drive from point A to point B 10,000 times in a row with 0 chances of a safety issue, and people trust it. I just think that's it. That's the thing. That's the thing.
And an AI brain that's this big, not one that takes up the entire trunk of your car, or is a pallet on the roof, or all these crazy things. I mean, that's the thing that people just don't appreciate about the difference between what Tesla's doing and what Waymo is doing is, and you've made this point. I love the way that you say this, Farzad. You take like a pallet of computers and sensors, and then you like throw them on the car, versus something that's smaller than an Xbox and a couple of smartphone cameras. And like those two things have significantly different costs. They not only to make in the first place, then to install in the second place, because one of them gets installed at the factory. The simple one gets installed at the factory, and the complicated one, then the car has to be taken apart. Then all that pallet worth of stuff has to be installed, and then it has to be reassembled and, made
And they gotta talk
aerodynamic
to
and
each
all
other.
that stuff. Yep. And then, but because it's so much more complicated, it uses 10 times the amount of power going down the road as the Tesla system. And it's using, way more computers that take way more power to run, which take way more time to make the decisions. So to smash it down into the form factor that they have running on this tiny amount of power that it runs on, with the very simple input signals that they're getting from cameras, it's just a completely different approach. And if they can make the shoestring budget incredibly, it's a David and Goliath type of approach is what it looks like. When you look at, you think that what Tesla's doing is the David version compared to the Goliath of Waymo. But then once you understand the problem, then you realize, no, actually it's Tesla who is the Goliath versus Waymo being David. And I don't think David's winning this one.
And because you can do that, because of everything you just said, you can put it in a 2-seater small form factor that costs no more than $20,000 to make. You're going to be able to make at least 2 to 3 billion of those a year. And it's going to give you a premium experience where you have heated and cool seats. You can have air conditioning set up for you exactly when you get to the car. You have a TV in front of your screen that does whatever you want it to do. It has a very good sound system. It'll show up exactly when it tells you to. It will take you to your destination exactly when it tells you to. It's going to be much cheaper than a driven one with a person in it because it doesn't have a driver. It has an amount, it's privacy, so you don't have to worry about another person. You have safety if you're a woman at night coming back from the club. You're not worried about this fucking guy in the front seat trying to rape you, right? So it's like the amount of different benefits from this thing. Sorry for taking it there, but that's like a legitimate use case for this thing, right? It's safety and privacy. And this is no tipping. Exactly. You don't got to tip nobody. You don't have to worry about the person talking your ear off. You're whatever. There's just so many benefits that come along with this thing that we just described. So it's not just like a cool technology that works. It's like, this use cases here are insane. It's ridiculous.
And it's way cheaper.
It's way cheaper.
I agree with you, Farzad. It's like, for the majority of people, they need to see it to believe it. I do think, though, there are people who are stupid and don't get it. Like when you're saying GPUs need to be trained, you're stupid. You're just speaking on a very small level of knowledge, and you're not actually
malinformed, Nico. Come on.
Yeah. I'm being honest. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm just being honest with words that everybody understands.
Sure, go for it.
You're being sensitive. But I guess the only reason I bring this up is just because, okay. But the reason I bring this up is mainly just we have an echo chamber that's probably watching us, right? And I'm sure many people aren't diving into all this that much, and they hear about all these other AI companies. AI is such a big deal. And I guess the reason I just want to bring this up again and just really point out the juxtaposition between what Tesla doing and everyone else is to remind them how special this is and how it is not the same. It's not on the same level, so look, I think a lot of times it's hard to stay in a stock over the last 3 years when it's just been down or sideways. And sometimes, you just I see all the time in my comments, thanks for doing this. I needed to hear this today. Sometimes I forget and I drift, and my wife is asking me well, when's this going to happen? When's this going to happen? And it's listen, you just got to believe in the vision. You got to play with it. You got to see it. And, there's also a little hope and luck that comes into it. But I think hearing these things and people talking about the juxtaposition really helps people feel more informed and more confident in their decisions. Whether they buy, they sell, it's up to them. But at least it's a reminder of the nuances and the differences. And so that's why I really want to bring it up.
No, I agree with you. I think there is a lack of fundamental understanding in a lot of different places and why Tesla's approach is so different. And again, it hinges on execution, and that's why I keep going back to they have to make it happen for it to become a reality. Ultimately, they have to do it. It's just Rabbit AI, that freaking stupid orange box. That Human's another one, right? I mean, and Figure, who knows what they're going to do with it? It's just right now it just seems like a narrow AI powered, like GPT powered robot, right?
Isn't that
Which
Hans's favorite company?
Yeah, Figure, for sure.
Yes, sure. Why not? I love that company.
Yeah, I still feel like there's a fundamental vast. Most people don't even know almost every car will be EV by the end of the decade. Like new cars. Most people still don't believe that. Forget layering on top of that, they're also going to be able to drive themselves. Forget it.
Yeah.
Like that's not even, so like, you know, and I think maybe that's part of the thing that we have to, like, the three of us have to keep reminding ourselves, is that perhaps maybe we are too early, or maybe we are so far ahead of where we're going to be, if we're right, that there's still going to be this giant awakening from the population that are going to realize, oh, okay, crap, holy shit, this is actually happening. But again, most people will not see that happen until they actually experience it firsthand. And the EV thing is proof of it, because people that own EVs know what they have, what they have in their hand. There's a reason why a company like a Tesla has 90% loyalty rate. That's why they have the lowest cost of maintenance out of any car brand in the United States, period, when it comes to maintenance and repairs, right? So it's like, okay, the numbers are there. It's been out there long enough for people to like realize this is a no-brainer, but it still hasn't reached its maximum potential, because it takes time.
Because we gotta advertise. You remember when that was like that whole thing is like died off? Remember when that was like the big fight in the Tesla community? Is like, should they advertise? Should they not advertise? Nobody talks about that anymore.
I think the short-term stuff, yeah, because it's a short-term concern that when you think about the long-term potential of the company, it doesn't matter. And, you know, when the stock is down and the quarterly earnings are coming down, it becomes a huge part of the conversation, because people are like, see, this is what happens when you don't advertise. But then it takes everyone's attention away from the long-term potential of the company and what they're working towards. And because it's long-term and it hasn't happened yet, folks that are more short-term minded can't. I just think they're either unwilling or are much more of a let's wait and see when it actually comes and I can see it in paper before I start hyping it up kind of thing, which I respect. But it's just like, it makes long-term investing so much more difficult. And this is like the signal versus noise stuff, right? It's like, it becomes very difficult to find the data sets that actually matter, asking the right questions, you know, identifying the right problems, right? So like, for example, what's a bigger deal? Tesla not advertising or Tesla not being able to have FSD in China?
Oh, not having FSD in China.
Boom. So like, okay, so why the fuck are we talking about advertising? They just got approval. Yeah, Nico, stop talking about it, bro. But that's the kind of stuff. That's what happens. That's the short term mindset, is like that whole thing gets lost. You know, what's more important, whatever it was, lowering the price of a car by $1,000 or increasing the price of the car by $1,000, or the UK laying out a pathway for self-driving vehicles by 2026? Which of those two is more important? Like, and that's what it's like. It's stupid. Like, the short-term stuff is fucking stupid. And I entertained it for way too fucking long. Honestly, I have. It's so boring. It's useless,
but it's fun to talk about. Like, it is some of this stuff. You know,
of course,
interesting.
It's conversational.
Engagement farming.
Can we talk about two more things, and then I have to head to the beach? Yeah, okay. Sorry. I was hoping we could talk about. Well, okay. Well, look who I'm talking to. Let's see what you're talking about. Can we talk about the vote, and then just 8-8, and just, you know, what your guys' updated thoughts are with, you know, because every week we learn new things. So I was hoping we could start with the vote and see what you guys, what your thoughts are on that as of today.
I put out a post on X a couple of days ago, and I was going to make a video about this, but I still feel like I don't have everything in my head right to come across the way I want to come across. But since this is a forum of just three boys talking to each other, that it's going to be watched by a certain number of people, the Tesla boys. Dude, this is not going to end well. I feel like this is going to end up in a place where Yeah, so this is where I'm at, and I'm going to be completely honest. I think if you're somebody who voted yes in 2018 and now are voting no, you are immoral. So that's kind of where I'm landing with that, because it doesn't matter what administrative issues Tesla had with Elon and the board's relationship not being disclosed. None of that matters. It was a number-based goal that almost everybody thought was ridiculous because it was so insanely over-optimistic, which ended up being hit. And so if you voted yes back in 2018 and you voted no, and now you're voting no, you should not be trusted. So that's where I land, number one. If you voted no in 2018 and you vote no again, great. Okay, cool. So okay, cool. So you're kind of where you're at, and that's great. Cool. I think that because most people are moral and most people are good people, I think this passes without an issue. I think the thing that they're going to struggle more with is reincorporating. And I think that's why they're doing a lot of the ad blasts right now, is because they're trying to capture the sort of the fervor, like the passion behind the vote yes people to also vote yes for the reincorporation. So that's why they're putting ads out there. So I think that's why the votes, that's why they're advertising some of that stuff. But I find it extremely hard to believe that investors will vote no, because the implications of a no vote, even though there are people out there that say, well, if investors vote no, then Elon's not going to go anywhere because Tesla's his baby. It's like, well, no, SpaceX, he's much more passionate about that. Tesla is definitely a burden on him much more than any other companies. He's very open about it. He hates being CEO of Tesla. He's said it multiple times. And he's also said that if he doesn't get the influence that he wants on the company, he's going to leave. Or not leave. He's going to take the AI stuff long term. He's going to feel uncomfortable doing that with Tesla, which, I mean, say what you want about what that means. And then imagine being somebody who has a written confirmation of getting paid this much money based on a stock price that nobody can predict in the future, that came to fruition because of execution. Now you take that away. That says that the company you work for, the people do not believe in you. And so why would you want to work for a company that doesn't believe in you, right? So, and I think most investors understand that. And those that don't understand that voted yes before and voting no today, do not know what they have and are underappreciating the type of business acumen that Elon Musk has as an entrepreneur. Set aside your political beliefs, set aside your emotional beliefs towards him, how you feel when he says stuff. Just set all that shit aside. Look at the objective nature of his execution, and then tell me that he's not one of the greatest entrepreneurs of all time. And if you still vote no after voting yes, you suck.
I think there's a lot of people who were not shareholders in 2018 that this is their first time voting. And I think it's a material percentage. So I think that's going to weigh into it. And, the people there's a couple of groups of investors that I'm a little bit more concerned about. One of them is people who bought in at all-time highs and their investment is significantly down because they buy high and sell low. Like that's the normal, like the reason that the high is high is that's when everyone wants to buy. And the reason that the low is because that's when everyone wants to sell. And so if you buy and sell when everyone else wants to buy and sell, then by definition, you're going to buy high and sell low. And I think we've got a number of people who are in the stock in that position. And I don't know that they know how to judge. Like the reason that they bought high instead of before was because they didn't have the technical capability to understand the company and make an informed decision about what is the long-term value of the stock. Unless they were dollar cost averaging, in which case that's not the group of investors that I'm talking about. The other group of investors that concerns me is just passive index funds that, we've got a lot more S&P 500 inclusion passive funds. They control a lot more of the stock now than they used to. Their votes matter more, and their votes are completely detached from the actual individual people who own those stocks. And they are going to vote whatever way that either they're, typically have advisory firms that they hire to tell them, hey, you should vote this way or that way in these elections. So they'll either go with that, or the other thing is, they're usually Wall Street hedge funds, and they will go with whatever the people that are close to them are pressuring them for. And so, yeah, those are the groups of investors that concern me. And then the other thing, I think for Elon's compensation package, people who do not vote at all, that doesn't count in the results. That it's only the people who vote, the ratio of yeses to nos, that matters. From what I understand, reincorporating into Texas, a vote, so if someone does not vote at all, it counts as a no. It doesn't. So it,
No.
Okay. Is that not how it works? See, this is what I was hearing someone say. I don't really know one way or the other, but that was concerning to me.
There's two things for the vote to even count. And so the first one is there has to be like a quorum of amount of people who have voted, right? So whatever that, I forget what the percentage is. Maybe it's 60, maybe it's 80%. I don't know. But a quorum of people must have voted on the subject. So if you don't vote on it, then essentially it's just null and void, right? It's like, I don't know if you've ever been part of an HOA or anything. Like, you can't have the meeting if there's not a X amount of people there. You just can't have it, right? So that's when people are knocking on doors to get everybody to come out. But then this is my understanding. Alexander's the person who you should talk to if you really want to understand this. But from there, at that point, it's just yes or no. And so the part where people, from my understanding, where people say, if you don't vote, it's considered like a no. It's mainly because like we need to have that volume of people to just have the vote to begin with. And so if you don't vote, it's kind of considered like as a no, so then we can't actually have the true vote.
Yeah, it defaults to no because you didn't vote yes.
But it's not like a no as in no, don't move.
Right.
It's that we failed to vote yes to move.
We failed to get enough people to be part of this vote. Help me out. Like, am I too, I don't know. I'm self-deprecating today, but am I just being too simplistic on my thought about all of this? Because with the Elon vote, this is how I see it. If you are a shareholder today, you're going to vote yes. Because if you weren't going to vote yes, you would have been out a long time ago. If it's for political reasons, things he says, because you are pissed that you're at all-time highs, you would have sold a while ago. If you're still holding on at this point, there's a reason for it. And it's because
Stockholm
you trust
syndrome.
Elon. I get there's going to be those rare cases like, what's his name? Biggest shareholder. Leo, yeah.
Benedict Arnold Kogwan.
Yeah. Even then, this may be all crap. He may just be doing this because he's like, I know it's going to pass, but this is at least me voicing how I want to voice it. And so he thinks it's not a big deal. I just don't think there are that many people who are like him, who are that vindictive at the moment. And we don't even know how he's really going to vote. You've had like Ross sit there and say that he's voted no. Dude has like no shares. I have more shares than he does. So it's like, all right, cool. I'm like, great. Like, you know, people have called him out where he acts like all the people in his fund are his shares and he acts like that. So like there's some nuance there. But I think my bigger point is I think most people who would vote no would be out of it just from that perspective. If they have a political or issue with him, or if you're pissed about the stock price or whatever. Okay, so you rule all those people out. Then there are people who, like you're saying, mutual funds, Wall Street, whatever. Do you really think that they're going to vote no and risk Elon saying, all right, fuck it, I'm out? Because they're just giving up their money at that point. They're asking for the stock to tank. And so then they're going to be...
I don't know that it matters to a passive because they're just anchored to the benchmark. And so as long as they are performing with the benchmark, then it doesn't matter.
So that assumes that if they vote no, that the stock doesn't go down.
No, it doesn't matter. Like if they vote no and the stock goes down, and they are roughly equal weighted with the S&P 500 as long as they're not doing worse than the S&P 500 does. Like they're only measured to the S&P 500. So whatever impact the stock has on the S&P 500 is what it is.
So then them voting no would be what? What are they trying to achieve with the no vote then?
Making people that they have relationships with happy, who are people that live in New York or Washington, D.C., usually.
But okay, so I have like two arguments for these Wall Street people. One was, well, they're just self-sabotaging. Like, who does that? Like, at the end of the day, we're all investing to make money, not to make a point, right? We're not here to be activists with our dollars, right? I'll scream, I'll, whatever for a protest. I'll like, yeah, you go. When it comes to my dollars, that's a little different. When it comes to other people's dollars, it's a little different. But my other point, because I think you make a good pushback on the equal weighting. Other pushback is this is setting a precedence for future compensation and anti-capitalism acts that are happening after voters have voted. Right? There's like you are setting a precedence right now, and that's dangerous. And I don't think, even if you love, hate, whatever, Elon, I think you've seen a lot of people say that this is disgusting and this wasn't right.
I agree with you 100%. And I think people that generally have money to invest or have funds are generally capitalistic. And I think they I hope would understand the long-term ramifications of rolling this back after the deal was agreed upon, right? On that deal.
I largely agree, except for the huge caveat of just thinking about the insanity of our ESG, like this whole ESG thing that's in investing. You would think that investors want to make money, but all of the metrics that go into that movement, maybe it is now. Hopefully.
It is.
I hope that Alexandra killed it.
There was a trend of like the number of times ESG was mentioned in like earnings reports or something, and it's gone down dramatically. Now it's being replaced with AI. So ESG is going away, AI is coming in. But okay, so here's another point I want to make. So David, my media guy, as I like to call him, he's working on an edit of like Patrick Bet David talking about Elon Musk that we're going to post on the channel at some point. It's going to be like PBD, but PBD was on Andrew Schultz's podcast. Andrew Schultz is a very famous comedian. He's hilarious. I highly recommend.
Favorite comedian. I saw him live a couple months ago here. Oh my God, we died laughing.
Yeah, the way he can like he talks with the crowd is like next level. Like his crowd engagement is super super good. But they were talking about Elon, and then Schultz made this point. He's like, I'm invested. This is Andrew Schultz talking, paraphrasing, but this is what he said. He's like, I'm investing in Tesla because of Elon, right? If there was an Elon company out there where I can put money in Elon, I would have put money in Tesla. I would put money in Elon because then Elon's the one that's, and I would like to think, and I think I have data that backs this up because of, thankfully, luckily, how well my channel has performed, that I have data in the background that tells me what kind of people watch my channel, that a majority of people that are invested in Tesla are invested because Elon is a singular person that can do a lot of good things for people's investments. And that if they were to do something that puts him at risk of leaving, that they would be very much against it. And if you're somebody who's invested in Tesla that doesn't want Elon there, my challenge to that person is you have no idea what you're invested in. You have no idea what you're invested in. And I think those people, what happened?
I'm just mouthing the three special letters.
Oh, yes. But I think there's, I don't know, but people can do whatever they want with their money, obviously. Vote no for all I care. I'm going to have my opinion about that, right? But it's obvious to me that a majority of people that are invested in Tesla are invested in it because of Elon, because of what he can do.
So the Delaware piece, or the moving out of Delaware. So again, on this one, assuming that enough people vote on this, I actually am more optimistic that will pass. again, because for us as retail investors, right, we tend to be aligned with the company, right? We tend to think the company knows what's best for them. They know more, right? So it makes sense. For Wall Street, I think it makes sense to send a message that there are all in podcast talks about this, right? Companies are moving out of Delaware, and they're trying to move out of Delaware, and it's going to send a message. And so I kind of think as long as we get enough people to vote, I do think it'll pass. And I think that's what Robin Holm and all of them are really going around marketing this for that. I think you said that earlier, Farzad. But so I think as long as we get enough of a quorum, enough people, I do think that one will pass. Not by as big of a margin, but
60-40 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. Like what has been Delaware's long-term sort of like incentive for businesses to go there is very predictable laws for businesses that are pro-business, right? Now there's like this thing happening where there's like that stability is going away, where it's like businesses are like, wait, I came here so I don't have to deal with this bullshit, and now I'm dealing with this bullshit. So what's going on? And so the only reason I think why folks will be hesitant is because maybe Texas, maybe in their eyes, doesn't have a great long-term track record of being a stable place for businesses. But I don't think that's the case because Texas is very business friendly. They're very business friendly, but maybe not at the sort of corporate multinational level that Delaware has been in the past. But who knows? Maybe Elon, because damn well Elon on the board are talking to all the big money guys behind the scenes, and they know how these guys are going to vote. And that's why I think, like, I really think these things don't go on the agenda unless they know they're going to get the votes, right? I just don't think they would put it out there. Yeah. Like, I don't think they would put it out there for a vote unless they know they can get the votes, especially such a large decision like this one. The first one, even the vote for Elon, like the comp package, think about it for a second, okay? They haven't even appealed the ruling. Think about that. They haven't even appealed the ruling from the Delaware judge. Why would you put it out to a vote before it's even appealed? My guess is because they know they're going to win and it's going to help them win the appeal.
But why all the extra advertisement and campaign, all that, if you know it's going to pass?
Because they want to leverage that passion from the investor base to get the reincorporation for Texas as well. They want to activate, because what you said, the quorum, right? They want to activate the investor base to get voted on that as well. That's why they paired them. That's why they say vote for comp plan and vote for reincorporation. But there's other items on the agenda. Why didn't you include the other ones? Because that's the ones they want to get passed. They want to anchor on the vote for Elon, which they know they're going to get a yes for, and they want to bring along the incorporation, because that's really the one they're after, because that's the one that's going to allow them to do the stuff that they want to do and mitigate the risk of activist judges.
Hans, where is he wrong?
I would largely agree with that. I think, I don't know.
Okay.
I would say
when I say something, he has great rebuttals to what I'm saying. But when it's the Farzad, I agree with him.
Rebuttals. I asked questions.
Socrates.
It's the shirt.
There are a large number of stakeholders that they've had conversations with. I don't know that they know that they're going to get the votes, and simply because, I think the quorum thing is difficult. I know that there are votes that they have proposed in the past. I think they were, maybe it was one time when they were proposing changing the term of board members, that they didn't reach the quorum and the vote failed. So I don't know that they can know that they're going to have enough votes, and I think that's why they are really trying to push the awareness piece and use advertising. Hey, we are advertising. We're advertising that we need to vote. And I hope, I think that it's more likely than not that the votes pass, but they're unquantifiable. Like, I don't know how many passive, like what the percentage of passives it'll vote one way or the other. I don't even expect for that to all go against him. Like, I think it'll probably be split. I think that we'll probably end up with definitely in favor on both of those as far as the number. And then as long as we have the quorum, then the Delaware thing will pass. And I really, really hope the reincorporating into Texas does pass for the exact reasons that y'all mentioned. Like, Delaware needs to receive a message that, hey, like, you need to be what Delaware has always been. None of this creative baloney sauce. Like, let's keep the woke stuff out of corporate governance, and then we'll we'll see what happens from there. I think that decision has to get appealed by, like, not just appealed, like that the appeal court has to uphold the appeal and overturn her ruling in the first place. Like, Delaware cannot afford for her to just go off on these loose cannon, crazy, 10-page, well, is it okay for Elon Musk to make so much money? Yeah. I don't know. Let's create a way.
Ridiculous way.
Yeah. That is not your decision. Yeah. That is not your decision to even opine on that.
The fact that she started with the ruling with that sentence is mind-blowing.
As someone who, like, you're supposed to be a fair arbiter of business, and, like, this is the premier court for settling disputes for international, multinational corporations. And yeah, like, it's not the place for that. Like, that is okay if some college freshman wants to talk about that, at Princeton or Yale or, some of these captured institutions, that's fine. But let's keep that out of the business court.
The grown-up table.
Yeah.
So crazy. As we get to this last topic of 8.8 to end on a high note, if Alexander's watching this, let me apologize ahead of time if you're rolling over in your chair thinking, like, I've explained this so many times and they still butchered it. It's me. It's not them. But that's my understanding of it. Let's transition to 8.8, and then I have a beach date with the wife. We've had a lot of updates. We've had a lot of new leaks or Easter eggs. Lots of talk since we all last since I got with you two. You two crush every Friday, it seems. But any changes of thoughts of what's going to happen on after 8.8? You just call it till the end of the year, like what will be announced, service, anything like that. I don't expect there to be too much of a difference, but I'm just curious if you've evolved any more in your thoughts.
Where I'm landing is I really think I've been going back and forth with the Robotaxi stuff, because I was in the boat of, like, they'll release a platform that's going to be like an airline model. Like, you guys have heard me talk about that a lot. I still think long term that makes the most sense, but it really does seem like Tesla is going to start with a two-seater, no steering wheel and pedal, level 5 as they call it, machine that's going to be optimized for the lowest cost per mile, maximally comfortable, entertaining, private, safe, so on and so forth, with the intention of making millions of units per year of this thing. And I think in tandem with that, they will release the more affordable vehicle that will have a steering wheel and pedal as well. Because on the quarterly earnings call for Q1, Elon hinted, because they were, one of the investors was talking about, because they put it in the quarterly earnings report, they said, we're moving up our plans for a more affordable model, right? And then the one guy asked him, can you give us more detail? And Elon said, we'll talk about it on 8.8. So that implies that it's Robotaxi and cheaper vehicle that you can drive from point A to point B. Unless Elon is saying that the cheaper model is the one that's going to drive itself from point A to point B. And they'll create a ownership. But see, again, but that's so heavily dependent on jurisdictions approving it. It's just, I just don't see that. And you're going to have so much idle capacity. So then the question becomes, then is Robotaxi going to be on this new line? On this, like, new morph line that you're going to leverage 3NY production to create Robotaxi? Maybe. That has a lot of implications. That means that then Robotaxi, like, we might start getting them in the millions of units a lot earlier than we think, because you're just leveraging existing lines, and you're just adding new technology, like they said, like the Gen 3. So is a new line the steering wheel and pedal, a more affordable car that's Robotaxi light, or Yeah, so that's what I want to get answered. But I think they show 2 cars, and they show
is there
the
a
app.
service or no?
I think they will throw a carrot out there that says that they expect to have the first rideshare rides with a driverless vehicle by the end of this year.
I think we see the no steering wheel pedals 2-seater vehicle. They talk about it. They talk about how it's going to be made, the unbox process, kind of expanding on that somewhat so that people have an idea of how cheap these things are going to be to make. I think we do see the app. I expect a steering wheel and pedals version to ship long before the no steering wheel and pedals version ships, but they're not going to talk about that at the announcement. They're just going to do that. And it's going to be similar, like we talked about a $40,000 Cybertruck, but those are obviously not the Cybertrucks that start rolling off the line. It's the $120,000 Cybertruck. And I think the same thing is essentially going to be the go-to-market strategy for the compact vehicle that we're going to talk about. What's the end state look like? And that's obviously going to be a Robotaxi with no steering wheel and pedals. But the first vehicles off the line are probably going to be regular old compact cars that, obviously they have a lot of the same stuff. It's still the same basic vehicle. But there is the ability to drive it still.
There's something you said before, Nico, in our previous conversation, where Robotaxi, you're calling the end-to-end platform. Like that's what that is. It's like the app, it's the fleet, it's the fleet management, it's the so on and so forth. I think that's what you were referring to. Now that he's throwing Cybercab, because he's been throwing this word Cybercab out there a little bit more, I think Robotaxi and Cybercab are 2 different things. I think you were right in sort of that assessment ish. It's like Robotaxi is the platform where you can add and remove any Tesla to it. Like it's the app, it's the fleet management, it's all that stuff. And then Cybercab is a driverless, no steering wheel and pedal, 2-seater, $25,000 vehicle, whatever that is, or whatever that number is, that people can either hail or they could buy for their own thing. And then maybe Tesla has a plan where you pay, I don't know, $600 a month and you can own this thing for a month. And then if you don't want it anymore, it just drives itself back. They clean it up and they send it to another customer. Something like that. I don't know.
And one more prediction on my part. I think we have an announcement of an OEM partner who's going to license FSD technology.
I don't think that will happen.
Okay. So you guys tell me where I'm crazy, okay? Because you're probably going to think I'm smoking that good right now.
Let's see it.
So first of all, I think 99% that they're going to show us the new vehicles on the 3 and Y lines, to your point, Farzad, because Elon literally said it on the earnings call. He said, we'll talk more about it then. I think they'll start delivering in Q4 or Q1, like Elon said. I think that's going to be on time, and I think that will happen. Probably put your reservations in now kind of thing. Then I think they will show us the 2-seater Robotaxi or Cybercab. I think they will show us the app. I think they'll show us how it works, how people are going to make money. And I think that they are already testing this. I think they are testing this using, for the Cybercab, I think they're testing it using Model 3s. We saw that one image with the special camera placement. I think they're getting training set for it now so that when it's ready, we won't have to wait on that. That doesn't mean I think the Cybercab is going to be the first Robotaxi. I think what's going to happen is they'll probably start in Austin as a beta pilot for this. They're going to use leased vehicles as the first Robotaxis with human behind it so that they can figure out any kinks or anything. I think at most that lasts a year as they scale out into other cities and regions. And as it makes sense, they will eventually take the driver away or out of the vehicle, so that by the end of 2025, we can start mass producing the Cybercab and start putting it into those markets first. And I think that's essentially what he tells it. And I think they probably start in Austin with the leased vehicles. I think in Austin, he'll probably say something like Q1 or end of this quarter, we're going to start, in small numbers, and we'll slowly grow this out. And I think it'll be a QA release, much like FSD works, where right now I think internal employees are using it. At least, I'm optimistic. I get it. But I think internal employees might be testing it right now. A handful, maybe it's just the autopilot team, one way or another. Or maybe that's what comes up next. And then I think from there, it'll be probably opened up to a certain limited of users, maybe people who just have FSD, or maybe you have to prove you have Tesla, FSD, and Tesla investment to make sure you're a good steward of this. And then eventually it opens up wider and wider, so they have a good QA process as they go out. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Farzad already has it on his car because he's obviously a Tesla employee. Elon pays him.
Yeah, Elon pays me. Dude, that is oh my God.
He's like, I told you guys. You just didn't believe me. I literally just said it.
There's literally people out there that think I get paid by Elon, by the way. That's like a legitimate thing that I've read online, that I'm somehow paid by Tesla.
Well, doesn't he, you do. Do you get paid on X?
That's the argument I hear. Well, you get paid on X, so technically Elon pays you. Okay, so do you know what my argument for that is? Okay, so YouTube pays me way more than X to talk about Tesla. So if anything, YouTube's talking to me to talk about Tesla more than X.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, let's put that ridiculous assertion aside. So what's interesting about the camera, fuck you guys.
No, I was gonna say, like, I didn't realize this was such a hot button. Like, I thought we were just joking.
It. What I try really hard to do, because when you're like online, is sometimes you'll read shit about yourself. You're like, these people are fucking morons, right? But you try not to talk about it because you don't want to give a lot of air to morons. So, but of course. I have a baby coming tomorrow potentially, and my guards are way down, and I don't care. So maybe people will get more of that. So we'll see. Anyway,
I know.
You know who you are, you fucks.
I'm less than a tenth of your size of a channel or anything like that.
Oh, they just call me fat.
I'm tiny. Well, that too, but I'm tiny. I'm tiny, like literally. But when I was first starting out, somebody said something like, "Why would you ever listen to somebody with the backwards hat on?" And I had so many nice, beautiful comments, and that one like hit me. After that, I'm like, I'm done with this shit. I don't listen to comments. I don't read comments.
Smart.
Like, screw all that shit. Like, I'll engage with people that I follow back, but
yeah,
everyone else, like, noise out the water.
I try my best. Yeah. I try my best to ignore it. I think at a certain point you get so large that like the stream of hate just comes your way anyway, right? And it's like, the mindset I have now is like, what's more important for me? An incel's opinion of me online or my family and friends, right? They don't even know who I am.
Don't listen to the mids.
yeah. The mids, there you go. Yeah.
Get you. Yeah.
Anyway. So bullshit aside, you know what's interesting about the camera placement on the new cars, right? Right. There was a video of the Model 3 and a Model Y that was broken, and they shipped it to Moldova, I believe, and they repaired it, and they were able to run it with FSD in a country that had different traffic patterns, different signs and everything. And the car figured out how to drive itself, right? So I'm wondering, do we really think there's going to need to be that much retraining in new camera positioning? Because the car appears to get context clues from what it sees, and it figures out how to drive. So could it use its own relation to the road to just figure out how to drive? So like they're retraining, like for example, Elon said Cybertruck's going to get 12.5 FSD. Okay, so is FSD 12.5 the mode that just knows how to use context clues, which includes the where the Cybertruck is in relation to the road to drive itself? Because when you and I hop between a pickup truck and a compact car, we don't have to like train how to drive on a pickup truck. Our license allows us to drive on the pickup truck.
Yeah,
right?
But no, I think you do need some data to kind of calibrate, if you will, and also to prove out that like especially if you're going with a new position, that position's still good for visibility across the board. just like QA stuff. But if you are always driving a little Mini Cooper and then all of a sudden you get into F-150, all right, that's not exactly the same. Like that takes you a little bit to like get your bearings and like understand like how far can I pull up in a parking lot or backing out. Like we take a second. Like it's not like it's just natural.
But you know how to drive.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make is like the gap in timing from like getting into a pickup truck and learning how to drive a pickup truck as a human being with our neural nets takes minutes, right? Because our vision in relation to the rest of the world takes some time getting used to, which is no different than the cameras around the Cybertruck versus say the Robotaxi or the Cybercab, right? But if this is really an end-to-end neural net, wouldn't it just learn? It just knows how to drive. It just knows how to drive
right now.
Okay, but it might by 12.5, 12.6, 13.
Not by 12.6. Eventually it will get to that point. But like what you're talking about is also, it only takes a couple of hours to teach a teenager how to drive. And right now it takes a couple billion hours of training data to teach a neural net how to drive. And so, like that ability to learn and generalize is something that we're still getting towards in neural net technology in general, much less, full self-driving. I think that we will get there.
I'm not saying this is a tomorrow thing. I'm just saying like that.
Yeah.
Like the ramp to that feels like you don't have to run 3 years of training on the Cybercab for it to be able to drive itself. You use the existing model, you have some additional new data from the Cybercab, and then it just like, oh yeah, no, this is how I do it.
Yeah, it'll work. It'll be an engineering challenge. It will take some data. They'll have to figure out how to do the port from one vehicle to another. And then once they do the first one, then it'll get easier to do it to the second one, and so on and so forth. So yeah, they'll figure it out. And it is like the Cybertruck getting 12.5 is a good first sign on that, because it is the first like completely new vehicle form factor that we've seen. And, they've only shipped a couple thousand of them so far. And so for them to already have figured out how to go, from the 3, S, Y, and X into the Cybertruck with the same software means that they've already got a solution that's working. And that, like I said, every time from thereafter, it's an easier port from one thing to the next.
I think at 12,000 Cybertrucks, by the way, because somebody just took delivery of a VIN 12,000 yesterday that they published on X. They've already sold more Cybertrucks in 20. No, never mind. I'm not going to do the math. Okay. We'll wait.
All right. Okay. Well, I got to go. So that's it for Elon and the 3 Tesla boys. How's you like that one?
Please don't title it.
No.
Oh my God. All right. Next time we talk, I'll be a dad.